start my talk, I would like you all to see this video. It's on socialization. Sorry.
Social support. Are you being connected with people in your life helps you feel like you belong? It even helps reduce stress, boost your immune system, lowers blood pressure, and can lengthen your life. In fact, people with strong social support are usually happier, have better mental health, and feel a stronger sense of belonging in their community.
Social connections or social interactions with other individuals is crucial to mental health, which in turn is crucial to overall health. The lack of social connections has shown to increase stress hormones, weaken the immune system, and lessen cardiovascular functions.
Unfortunately, people who feel alone or isolated often have poor health. In fact, new research shows that not having social relationships can shorten our lives as much as smoking over 100 cigarettes per week.
Social relationships allow you to share your achievements and have support when times are tough. Imagine achieving a long-term goal you had. What's the first thing you want to do? Tell someone, of course. Or imagine if something terrible happens. Not having someone to lean on and talk to can make that event linger and make you feel even more isolated. Giving support in relationships can actually be more beneficial than receiving support. When someone shares something positive in their life with you, it's a compliment. They wanted you to be a part of their success, and they know that you have a sincere interest in their life. And when someone shares a tragedy in their life, you know they really trust you, and they're looking to you to help them through this difficult time. Now, some social relationships can be bad. A person that is constantly negative and has a poor outlook can bring you down and cause stress, making that relationship toxic. Someone that always talks about themselves and makes all of your interactions about them, well, that's not really a social connection. In that case, you're just an audience member in their one-person show on how wonderful their life is. Poor marital or poor relationship quality can also weaken the immune system and erode physical health. Dealing with stress from a poor relationship can lead to over-consuming food or alcohol, smoking, or taking medications to deal with the stress, which in turn can damage systems in the body. Connections through social media can be beneficial by allowing you to stay in touch with friends and family. However, social media connections are not a good alternative for face-to-face in-person contact. And too much time spent on social media can lead to more isolation and a greater feeling of loneliness. It's a good practice to use social media in moderation. To be healthy, we need people in our lives. It doesn't need to be 5,000 Facebook friends, and we don't have to have everyone like us. Having strong social relationships with just a few people is fine. A few people that we can share life's good and bad moments with, a few people that we can connect with on a regular basis with no stress and no judgments. A few people who accept us for who we are.
Being connected with people in your life helps you feel like.
Okay, the video showed us that it is very important to have social connections. To receive the support and will make your children feel happier, have better mental health and physical health too. To have a sense of belonging, receiving encouragement and affirmation, feeling important, respected, it'll boost their immune system and they will feel less stressed and positive. So all this can begin at home. You are the most important connection in your children's life. So I'm going to introduce you to the 5 needs. The 5 needs was started or introduced by William Glasser in choice theory. And he believes that human personality development in our everyday life to stay happy is an attempt to fulfill these 5 basic needs. So I'm going to introduce them to you. Love and belonging need. Love and belonging need is a very important need. It will give us connection to people. It makes us feel loved. It makes us feel affirmed. It makes us feel secure. So how do we begin this, give the security and build a satisfying relationship with our children? So one tip I can give you here would be saying, I love you. I know it is difficult to say that because in our Asian culture, we always, we do it, we show it, but we never say it. So this will be a beginning. It will make them feel that they are loved. Nowadays, children need to be told. So this is one way that you can connect and tell them that you love them and you will be there for them all the time, right? Power need. What is power need? Power need is to recognize, to be recognized, to have success, to achieve things. And this is one thing that our children, we can recognize all these things with our children. Okay, the next, fun need. Fun need is very important for us, right? Even though a lot of times we say fun need, but fun need is as important. Enjoyment, having laughter, learning with fun. Our schools have come up with a lot of projects and things to teach children as well, how they can have learning with fun. So this is to help them to help them get the need, and then they will be very interested in what they are doing. The next one is survival. It is the basic needs like giving us health, food, warmth, sleep. So, and most of the time, all our parents are doing a great job in giving these basic needs to our children. That is what we have noticed. The next need is freedom need. Freedom need is not to give all the freedom, but to have the independence or the autonomy to make decisions, to give them, have the knowledge. Like you will say, giving children choices, but it can be like 2 choices or 3 choices, right? And when you make them choose one of the choices, they will take responsibility of that choice and they will do it in a more positive and in the way that they will find direction that, and they will enjoy it actually. So these 5 needs are important. So one thing we must understand how, whether if we leave it to children, whether they will choose effective or ineffective basic needs. So this is when our children will have you to help them choose what is right for them and what could make them happy. So I hope that understanding these 5 needs are equally as important. You can direct them to choose effective behaviors. So in the next slide, you'll see that these are the challenges faced by our children, right? If you can understand through the last slide about basic needs, the children are facing technology and social media and social relationships. If technology, you see, it's power need. They are looking for that power need and they are finding it in ways on how to learn better ways to get the technology, finding all the apps and the things and how they can do things to get work done on the devices. Social media, joining all the platforms, chatting with their friends, and that's when their love and belonging need is being met. And you see by social relationships, fun needs. You know, they sit together with their friends to watch football, they have barbecue, they want to have play together. So you see their fun needs are being met. So these are the challenges faced by our students nowadays, right? So now I would like to introduce to you what are the reasons mental health issues are rising among the young. So as we see that this was a study that was done in 2018. So as you can see, maladaptive use of the smartphones. Smartphones came up so that we can communicate better, faster, and how is it used now by our children? So as you see, fear of missing out. They are moving, they want to know more, they want to get things done immediately. They want so when and then what is happening for them? They become alone, they're isolated, they're with their devices. They may be connecting with people virtually. Like a lot of people, students will come and tell me, Chacha, I have friends. I don't have friends in school, you know, but I have friends, I have virtual friends. So they're being isolated, they're alone, they are with their devices, they're working only with their devices. And this could affect their self-esteem because sometimes when they are on their social platforms, they are trolled. And this could affect them in their self-esteem, in their well-being as well, in their mental health well-being. So how is that going to be? So when then it affects their sleep. And then all the other mental health is affected. They overthink, they are not able to sleep, or their sleep deprivation is because they are online all the time, or they're gaming, right? And then again, our phones are distracting us, the adults in the family. And we get irritated when we are interrupted, and you know, we start showing our temper, we are showing the negative characteristics to our children, and then we learn all the negative things. So this cycle continues. So I'd like to show you more about device ownership in Singapore. This was in 2018. So now I'm going to ask you, how about now, after the CB, the HPL, and things like that? 70% of 12-year-olds had their own mobile device, and 35 average hours per week was spent on screen. And if they were on social platforms, it was 45 hours. So, and 85% of 8 to 12-year-olds were actively using social media and chat apps. And the chat apps, like you know, WhatsApp and YouTube and Instagram are the top 3 that they were using. So what are the questions that are coming to our minds? How can we replace this need? What is this need that they have, that they are going on all the social platforms? So I hope that just now what the 5 needs, we can go back to it and understand this, right? Okay, what are the recommended screen time for children? Under 2 years old, 0 hours. If 2.2, from 2 to 5 years old, not more than 1 hour. That also, it must be with you or all the siblings sitting beside them, seeing what they are watching, discussing what they are watching as well. So you know what they are watching and they are understanding as well. 5 to 17 years old, generally not more than 2 hours per day, except for homework, because now we have a lot of homework online. Yeah. So this is something, this is for our knowledge. But another thing I would like to tell you, there should be no screens. What has been recommended by all these professionals is there should not be any screens in the bedroom. And children generally should view a screen for 2 hours, should stop viewing the screen 2 hours before sleep time. So the reason is screens' blue light can prevent the brain from knowing when it's time to get ready to sleep. So the 2 hours, what can we do? We can spend time with them. Reading would be one good thing. Storytelling would be another good thing for our children. And that will slowly get them that sleep that they need. Now, I know after you'll be hearing this, and I know a lot of you all have been cutting down your children's screen time. But once you cut down their screen time, you need to fill that void. Don't leave them to figure out what to do with that time. Replace it with something positive, such as outdoor activities and other activities. Younger children don't relate to what they see on screen the same as real life. So when you're playing with your young child, you're teaching them how to interact with the environment too. Studies show that the more interactive you can be with them, the better off they'll be because they're using more of their senses, listening, touching, smelling, right? Because they'll be, once studies show that the more interactive you can be with them, the better off they'll be because they're using more of their senses, right? Yeah. So whether a child is younger or older, human interaction provides benefits that can't be replaced by screens. Yeah. So I'm going to come to you, the effects of the devices on the children that I have seen. Sleep deprivation is one of them. And you know that children need 10 hours of sleep. And we adults, we need 8 hours. So how do we help to fulfill this basic need of theirs? They are waking up late. They're dozing off in class. And it affects their behaviors. So that's when we see anger tantrums and disruptive behaviors. And one thing that we need to understand, when children are confused and upset, or maybe even afraid, they do not know what to do or to say. They do not know how to express themselves and how they feel. So that's how they react, and they show their fear by reacting, by shouting, by screaming. And then I know we all get offended and we get angry by this. And we parents as well, we are distracted. I know nowadays we have to be, everything is accessible. And when we are at home, we get calls from work, we have to answer a lot of messages, we get distracted. And this again is affecting the children as well as us and our relationships. So now I'm going to give you some tips on how to build better relationship with your children. As you can see just now, how important relationship is for us, right? Number one, follow their interests. Enjoying others will come more naturally when a child is doing something that they really like and they genuinely are interested in, right? So whether it's participating in a favorite sport, playing an instrument, or joining a club, this will be the first step to building their social skills and their self-esteem too, right? Because and you know something, you can join them too in this interest of theirs, or you can even introduce your interest, because like I was told by one student that his father introduced him to Tamiya cars, and now they are building the Tamiya cars together. And when they do it, how he has built his relationship with his father. And they go and they have the racing together, they race their cars together, and they see how they improve on it. So this is one thing you can do together. Like cycling also is another activity which we can do together, right? So this will be also another way that you get to know your child, and you have and when they are having fun, they are also telling you a lot of things, and that's when you understand them, right? So the next one would be teaching them empathy. If children have a better understanding of how others feel, they are much more likely to feel connected to them and form positive bonds. So what is empathy? It is feeling compassionate, have understanding for people. And this you can start at home by listening to them actively. Yeah. So when you're listening to them, you're understanding their difficulties. And when you're understanding them, they feel that security that my parent is listening. I'm here, right? So one tip I can give you is when your child comes to talk to you, never say no to them, but listen to their problem or story and then slowly suggest. If you think it's not advisable, suggest to them, come up with a better idea, what they can do better instead. So this will help them feel that you are listening and helping them rather than just judging or labeling them. So, and you know something, soon they will also start using this and listening to you as well. So this is a way to start with that. Okay. The next one is learning how to ask questions. Because sometimes when children get nervous, conversations start to lag, and then you will start asking your children, what are you doing? What are you saying? What are you trying to say? So how can we do this better with our children? To open your communication with them. I'm sorry that you're feeling upset by something I said or did. How can I make things right? Because this is a good way to tell children that you want to help them, you want to support them. When they come back, when wanting what they want, so when they want things, share with them what is their greatest fear, what is their greatest wish. So you will get to understand what is their what they are thinking, what is in their world, what are they watching, what are they seeing, and then this is how you can get to know it. The next will be when they come home, supposing in a bad mood. I see they are not in a good mood. You want to talk about it? So you're giving them, in a way, a choice. And then slowly they will open up to you because they know that you are here and you're listening to them. Another thing would be, would you like to talk about an alternative plan? Like just now, when they come up with some plan, they want you to buy something for them, and maybe you cannot afford it. So maybe you can tell them, would you like to come up with an alternative plan? So this would give them that, okay, at least I will be getting something, right? So this will maybe add on some, this one that to your children that you are listening. How to reassure them. I may not understand everything you're going through, but I'm always here for you. Because sometimes children will tell you, you don't understand me. So this is some way that to get them to open up. We want to understand you. The next would be, we care more about your well-being than your achievements. Because a lot of times when children feel that you have expectations of them, sometimes some of them will tell me also this, that no, my parents don't tell me, but my elder sister has gone to this good school. So then maybe my parents also want me to go there. So this is some way you can open up and tell them, how can we talk about it, right? I see that you're troubled. Sometimes when the children come home, they had a fight with their friends, they have had a lot of problems in school. So this is something you can say, I see that you are troubled. I'm here for you. So when they feel that security, they will start talking. I hear you. Do you want to talk about this? So when sometimes, they come back, they're saying, they come out with things like, I'm stupid. So how do we get them to move? Get them to say, I hear you. Do you want to talk more about this? Do you, so this is what will tell them that you want to understand them, and they will tell you more, right? The next step would be knowing your child's limit. So one question before I would go into this is, how will exerting pressure help your child increase his limit? We need to understand their limits. We need to understand that every child is different. Every child has their own gifts and their own weaknesses. So we are all not perfect, and it's okay. We are not, it's important to understand what they have. So instead of teaching, forcing them, maybe I know parents will say, we need to tell them what to do. We need to show them, yes. So how are we going to do? We can nudge them a bit, and how? We work with them to improve on their skills. What are the skills that they need? Sit with them to understand what are their weaknesses. How can you improve them? And when we are together with them, they will feel that you feel secure, and then they will start learning. Another thing would be celebrate their small successes. Even one extra mark, one more mark, two more marks they get. Celebrate with them and congratulate them, by going out for a ride with them, spending time with them. And that will show them that, wow, my parents are really acknowledging me, acknowledging my strengths now. I'm improving. And then slowly they will get that positivity and the increase in their self-esteem. Here again, you see, is their love and belonging need that they need here. Okay, and then the last one, being a good role model. Remember, we all learn better when things are demonstrated to us than just theory. It is important to be consciously aware of how you interact with others when your child is watching. Are you asking questions of others and then taking the time to actively listen? So this will be, do you show genuine empathy for your friends and family in your life? So the Center of Parenting and Education states that being an effective role model requires conscious effort and forethought. Children are constantly watching the adults in their lives. So be mindful of the language we speak. So, or example that supposing we can even use a life skill now, that supposing when you're watching a movie together with your child, and then we see this inappropriate language, how can we improve there? We can discuss with them and tell them that this is inappropriate instead of just brushing it off, right? So this is telling them, yes, you're there with them. And it is important to remember that it will take time for your child to develop these good habits, right? And skills. It is something that is developed and improved upon over a lifetime. So it's never too late to start now. Okay. Now, these are some additional pointers for parents. Avoid power struggles and mend your damaged relationships. So how do we, a lot of times our power struggles, I know, is with our devices, with them. They do not want to stop, and they are highly engaged in it, and it will take time. So what do we do here? Can we show some understanding here? Can we tell them, okay, what are you doing now? If I give you 5 more minutes, will that help? And if they said, okay, maybe they will even ask for more time. So, okay, today I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So today you understand that in this 10 minutes, you needed 10 more extra minutes. So next time, what you can do is, we can start switching off 10 minutes earlier on the time that I've given you, right? So I know this would be difficult. Children will continue. They will try you. They will push their boundaries. So, but we need to be firm and consistent. So this is the thing that you will need to continue. Once you're consistent with them, slowly, they will get into this habit that, no, my parent is expecting me in 1 hour, and then they will follow up on it. So this will help, right? Okay. Another one is for you parents. You are very important people in their lives. Caregivers need to look after themselves too. And if you don't look after yourselves, all your children, I mean, they're all looking at you and they're for all the help and the support. So you need to monitor and regulate your own emotions, especially if you're housewives. It is more challenging as your work never ends. It is good to look for friends and family or seek professional help. How do we look for this professional help? I'll tell you that in my next slide. And there are many places in the community that you can go to help, to get this help, right? And last but not least, work in partnership with the school. In our school, we believe that it takes a village to help a child. So everybody comes in to support your child. If you believe in this, we can work differently. We can help you work with the teachers to understand what are the difficulties that they are having. And sometimes they can give you different perspectives. They can even direct you to see what else you can help your child with. So this is something that you can come in to talk to us. We are your partners in supporting each child in our school. So even our children, we tell them also, come in, my doors are always open for them. Your children can walk in anytime, even talk to us, to talk to me, right? So we would like to have this partnership with you too. So where can you go to get support? Care Corner Family Service Center. There are 2 branches, one in Admiralty, one is in Woodlands, where we can go for positive parenting. That is one. Number 2, they can also help you in your other needs, other difficulties as well. It can be even helping to support your parents, the old and aged. It can help you in even helping you if you need the social support or financial support or any other supports that you have, that you need. So this is one place that you can go to, right? So now, parents, do you have any questions that you would like me to address?
Okay, parents.
Can I just, before that, you can contact me at this email address. I will take 3 to 5 working days to come back to you and leave your phone number. I will call you and we can discuss your difficulties if you need to. All right?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mozina, for the insightful sharing. We hope the tips shared will help us as parents to build positive relationship with our children, and let's continue to partner with us. Thank you, Madam Mozina. Once again, parents, if you have questions pertaining to learning needs, feel free to stay behind. We have a question here. Why is there iPad classes in the first place when prolonged screen time is not beneficial to children? We have with us Mr. Peck, our principal, to address this. Mr. Peck, please.
Yep. can hear me. Good afternoon, parents. Thank you so much for joining us in this session. We want to thank Madam Mozina for her sharing with regards to how to understand our children better. So thank you for the questions with regard to the iPad class. I think we want to go back to Madam Mozina's slide. So what that recommendation is saying, so you kind of hear things about how prolonged use of technology sometimes will have a negative effect on our children. And based on the guideline that was shared by Madam Mazina, so we talk about how less than 2 years old is 0 screen time, and then from 5 to 17, actually that statement and recommendation there was saying was that other than schoolwork, the recommended hours is restricted to 2 hours. So that's the recommendation. Now, of course, we have to look at the reality of the situation. The iPad program has been in our school for a long period of time, even before COVID-19. And I think we want to say this, that what we believe, and I think in every year when we have our parent talk at the end of P2, to kind of encourage parents to sign up for this program, is always about how, number one, we want to equip our students with the skill of using technology for learning. And here is about use of technology for a very deliberate learning purpose. And why we introduce that at this young age is because we also believe that in terms of that negotiation of control of device use is actually better and easier when we start them younger. So meaning when they are younger, and I think one of the things that we observe is that, and I think it was shared in Madam Mazina's slide, is that 70% of our children under the age of 12 actually already have access to devices. So meaning that a lot of our parents out there are actually giving their children access to devices. But many a times, it might not have been for educational use. So when we start this program of iPad for learning at primary 3, is also to try to rein in this maybe gap in terms of the device use of our children outside of the class, outside of the school, maybe at home since they are young. Devices might have been given to them. I think sometimes we mention about how this phenomena about how devices are being used as a electronic pacifier for our students just to get them to keep quiet. So some of us might be actually guilty of doing that. So we have been doing that with our children. So the iPad program is actually also seen as a way to bring in this discipline in terms of the device use, that the children are not seeing that the devices are just for game and play, and that they are using it for learning purposes. And that's something that we are trying to instill in terms of that program. And going back to the point that I made earlier about how when they are younger, it is actually easier to negotiate for a policy or even practice of use of devices even at home. Like this thing about how I think one of the things that we will advocate is that children should not be allowed to use their devices in their bedroom outside the eyes of the parents, that we encourage that they should be using their devices perhaps in a common area, that parents would have sight on what the children are accessing. So that is something that we can advocate, and that is something that if we do that when they are younger, it's actually easier to get them to cultivate that habit, as compared to what even some of our colleagues are sharing us their observation as well, is that if we do not have a device use policy until the child reach secondary school going age, and when they reach that age of wanting to have more privacy, wanting to have more control of their life, wanting to have that more independence away from us as parents, then you find that there is that power struggle, which is something that Madam Mazina just now mentioned that we should try to avoid. So we can actually overcome that problem by starting that device use when they are younger, and then establish that understanding about what are the do's and don'ts when it comes to device use. So that very much is the way we have been advocating about what device use is all about. And I think we also want to say that because of this program that we have started before COVID time, it actually allow us to pivot into home-based learning a lot quicker as compared to other schools that do not have such a program. During this period, we have checked with our own colleagues who are doing their teaching and learning in other schools. So for those schools that actually do not have these programs that are already in place, they actually encounter more problems and more issues trying to instill a more effective home-based learning program for their children, both at the students' end, the student readiness end, and also in terms of the teachers' readiness end. So really, when we look at this program about iPad, it is not a negative thing at all. It is starting them young. It is allowing us to practice and exercise that control even earlier. Now, of course, the use of device is not a perfect thing and it's a double-edged sword. But I think that is something that we will want to stare at it and then deal with it by looking at what we are seeing. Now, I just maybe share that in terms of the survey data that MOE has conducted as well, on our children, let's just go back to that device use. In terms of that device use, I would say that we actually have 60% of our students that are not exceeding 2 hours of use for entertainment. That is based on our P6 students data. That 60% of them actually do not, in terms of not the academic studies, but use of devices outside of study. That means for entertainment purposes, they actually 60% of them are within 2 hours per day. Another 20% or so is 2 to 4 hours. And about 20% is beyond 4 hours. So that's the data that we are looking at. And I would say that it is actually quite positive. Quite positive. You might say that, hey, we still exceed the 4 hours by about 40% of our students. But I think we look at it in perspective, whereby in this case here, if the children are able to control within 4 hours, actually we only have 22% of the students that we need to coach more in terms of what are the reasons, what are the kind of things that they are struggling with. So I would say that the data for our school actually shows that it is quite okay. And in terms of our device use for schoolwork, again, we also look at the amount of work or device used for schoolwork that are being dished out by the school. And we can see that, again, very similar pattern whereby the use of devices for schoolwork actually, again, about 60% are within 2 hours. Okay, we have another 15% more, which is 2 to 4 hours, and only about 17% that are more than 4 hours. So the statistics is pretty similar with the entertainment use. Okay, and therefore, in terms of that device use, we also see that it's healthy. Just bearing in mind that also during the home-based learning period, during the 2 years of COVID, I think MOE's guideline was that in terms of use of devices for schoolwork, we try to limit it to 4 hours per day. Okay, so based on that criteria, then we find that actually only 17% of our students that are going beyond the 4 hours per day. Okay, and that is to be expected because some children really need to spend more time on the devices or on the work in order to achieve the understanding that they require. Okay, so we are not too alarmed, but again, this is something that we make reference to and we continue to monitor that kind of device usage. In terms of the hours that they, their sleep hours, actually, I must say that our students' sleep hours has also been very positive, and most of them are getting at least 8 hours. Although I know that we might say that we want our children to have more than 8 hours, and in fact, it should be 10 hours of sleep. But certainly, if we look at within 8 hours, actually quite a large proportion of our students are doing that. So we kind of feel that the mental well-being of our student is pretty positive. And then with that, I want to thank all the parents for all the support that you are giving to them. And please continue to work with us and continue to give them those support. So I hope I've addressed some of these questions. And let me just maybe go back now because I see that during the time that I'm talking, there are more questions that are being raised. So let me just go to them. So similar, okay, so SLS, lessons are assigned and uncoordinated, maybe too many within a certain period. Okay, so can I also maybe mention that if that is the case, do give the teachers feedback about that. So that's something that I always want to say is that if you find that the homework is a bit too much, do get in touch with the teachers to perhaps find out what is happening there. Many a times, the teachers do give quite a generous kind of deadline, or give a certainly long period of time, sufficiently long period of time for the students to be able to partition their work over that extended period to finish their work. So usually it is not something that the child would cram everything and everything have to rush through. So that is something that is being done, consciously done at the teacher's end, but we are, sometimes not so aware about certain areas that we might not be aware of that is causing a jam at the child's end. So when that happens, do bring it up to the children, to the teachers. And in fact, I think particularly for the older children, when teachers are assigning homework, actually if it's becoming too tight for them, they actually will raise it up to the teachers, and usually the teachers are very understanding and they will adjust the due date accordingly. Okay, so that's that. Now, I just want to maybe use this opportunity when, about this comment on SLS, on some of the feedback or pre-questions that we receive from our parents, that says about how, like these assignment in SLS seems to be giving more load for our children and so on. I think we maybe this is a time to explain this, whereby increasingly we are now emerging for the COVID-19 experience. But at the same time, because of the COVID-19 experience, we are seeing that the integration of technology as part of that whole process of teaching and learning is something that we do not want to lose. The good side about COVID-19 is that it pushed something that has not been developing in a very quick manner in education. Suddenly, overnight, over the 2 years, had to move very quickly into a new operating mode. So the device use has been one of them. And that certainly we are seeing the whole combination of how devices and this kind of online learning, particularly this kind of SLS work assignment, that is actually something whereby we can then say that the learning is now moving beyond the classroom. Now, I don't want parents to take it as that, oh, that becomes more work and more stressful. No, it's not like that. Because in education, we talk about how going forward, and as we all mature, like our children will, into adulthood, we are talking about learning that are more modular. Minister has been saying about how getting a degree is not the end of our learning, and that our learning will continue throughout our lives, and that this whole access and connection with learning through online devices and platform is something that's going to become a norm. So SLS is also seen as that kind of module whereby we will place something that is there. We will come up with structure. It can be SLS, it can be Google Classroom. Okay, but it is something that is like either it is a pre-work that we get our children to do before the lesson, or it is something that we get the children to say that maybe you want to think further on that. Now, many of these assignments, just want to say that they tend to be more open-ended. So for parents who are very, very working with your children very closely, and you go in and see the question yourself, some of you sometimes get a bit shocked because the question can be quite open-ended. And sometimes maybe there's no fixed answer, or that the answer, if you want to answer it so completely, then it actually requires you to put in so much work into it. But just to explain that this is never the case, that the expectation about how much the child should put in is never prefixed. We are open to this situation whereby for a child that is more interested in it, they are willing to put in more hours without detrimental effect on their well-being. But if they are very interested in the topic, very interested in this assignment, and they want to spend more time, they can certainly spend more time and come up with more things for their learning. But if they are not, they just say that I stick to this guideline, because the teachers also tell the children that these things here that you are doing don't spend over how many hours, or the expectation is not beyond a certain number of hours. The child can jolly well stick to that number of hours and say, okay, within 2 hours, this is how much I can do. I need to do other things already. I will just let it go. That is also fine with us. In fact, that is happening for many of our assignment placed in PE, art and music. So you will notice that PE, art and music also would have these modules that are placed in SLS or Google Classroom. And we really very much leave it to the children to say, it depends on their interests and willingness to go beyond that. And that's certainly about them taking learning into their control, and based on their interests and their willingness to spend the time in, they can feel free to extend it further. And the question has that kind of room that allows that. Okay, but if you do choose not to do that, you want to choose a more more limited scope that you want to work on, it is also fine. And that is also a feature that we have put in for our LWT. Yeah. So, okay, so that's for that question. Next question about how can school have lessons on teaching students to stay focused? Actually, okay, and also can the school teach students on how to be exam smart, so that nowadays kids know what to do better tackling questions during the exam, so that they won't feel stressed. Okay, now maybe I address the staying focused first. So the staying focused first, just so some of you who might not be aware, we actually have a morning exercise of mindfulness, whereby we get our students to do breathing exercise, to be conscious about their breathing, to be conscious about how during this breathing, how their mind works, how are they collecting their thoughts back, how are they maybe directing their thinking towards certain reflections. And our teacher facilitates that exercise for a few minutes a day after the singing of national anthem. So I'm not so sure whether children come home to share with you that. And this is something whereby when our children get into issues and things like that, our counselors and our teachers actually will go through that with our children as well, to get them to learn how to focus. So this is something that now that you know about it, if you have not heard it from your children, you can just ask your children about it, and then during appropriate time when you're at home interacting with them, you can also bring that in to say how that whole breathing and bringing your mind together to focus on certain things can also help them to stay focused. Yeah, of course, we are not saying that that is a solution to all problem. Actually, the whole mindfulness thing, for those of us who might have more knowledge about that, is actually a whole program about teaching our students to be in control of their thought process. Yeah, because we find that sometimes some children, without training, they sometimes get overwhelmed when they are in a stressful situation, and then they sometimes just allow their whole mind to be overtaken and they feel paralyzed. So the whole mindfulness exercise is also actually to teach our students that during stressful times, or when you are panicking, okay, how you should calm yourself down, breathe in, breathe out, and then direct your mind away from the negative thoughts, away from the things that are distracting you or are causing you nervous, and that to bring them to focus on positive things and focusing on things that you can control. So that's something that we are doing. Okay, next, the exam smart part. Again, the whole education, we are trying to move away from the exams. I know that for parents, it is very difficult for you to accept. And I would say this, that even at the school level, not all of us are able to kind of wrap our mind about it. We are not saying that exam is not important, but we are saying that we don't want to stress our children too much. Some of you might have heard, I mean, in over the years, in terms of the education sharing, be it by ministers or even be it by education institution, for some of us who might have more knowledge, is that our children are performing well in international studies. But there is one thing that our children will always report, and that is always higher than all other countries, is their stress level and their confidence level in their work. So very ironically, while our students are very good in their math and science in the international studies, but in terms of their confidence level in doing well in it, it's actually a lot lower than many other countries who are not doing as well as Singapore. So why is that so? So it has been a problem that has been emerging year after year. And I think we have reached that stage of our education whereby we cannot be just letting it like that. So really very much we want to make sure that our children are not overstressed by exam. Okay, PSLE, O level, A levels, they are stages for the child to gauge, but they try their best. The outcome of it, there are many doors that are not closed. For secondary school, after PSLE, I know many parents are conscious about wanting their children to go to good school. But really, if we look at the statistics in Singapore, okay, every school, a good school is not just something that our Minister Heng, when he was Minister of Education, say, and a lot of people treat it as a joke. But it's not. If we look at the history of our education system, the way resources are given, the way the teachers are given, all schools are given the same amount of resources. Good teachers come from every school. Every school would have their very good teachers, and sometimes some of the better teachers than excellent teachers actually emerges from neighborhood school, or what is being considered neighborhood school. Okay, so really all schools are actually good schools, and certainly even when I was a student, okay, I have good classmates that when we enter JC, okay, I have my classmates that come from all over Singapore, from other schools that are not brand name. As long as they are good, no matter what school they go to, they eventually will emerge and qualify themselves to reach JC. I mean, at my time, JC was still the more preferred if you are more academically inclined. So certainly that is the thing. And I think we want ourselves to kind of ease away from that, because we are also seeing, and this is something that we see in our own children. I think in my yearly talk to our children, and that has been happening in primary 6 in particular, after the PSLE. I find that I think one year we noticed this, that we have a lot of our children who are going for tuition, and that when I get that sense of them from them, right, actually it wasn't something that they want. So in terms of that, of course, I know for parents that, yeah, you are not good in your studies, so I need to put you in tuition, and particularly because they are in the middle achievement class. So all the more I can understand that the parents feel that you're not good enough, I need to put you to tuition. But those tuitions are actually not making them happy, and they are not seeing the point. So again, that is something that is causing some kind of stress. And when mental health of our children is now, some of the emphasis of our education system, or even our society is placing on that, we really very much want to ask ourselves some of these practices that we have. So certainly exam, we don't want it to be exam smart. In fact, in the recent report from DG that talks about the way we look at exam and things like that, we actually make this statement about how we need to move away from that kind of model about like, okay, there is this kind of question and then I solve it in this way. That this question type this way, like I think there was also some people who say that, oh, some school teachers are actually analyzed that there are like 7 types of problem solving questions in PSLE math. If you see this kind of question, you apply this method. If you see that kind of pattern, you apply another method. Actually, those kind of very rigid fixing of types is very dangerous, because the Helen and Ivan questions, because my VP, Mrs. Lim, and I, we went through the question. Actually, Ivan and Helen question, when we were going through the math paper, right, wasn't even in our radar screen. We didn't even feel that it was difficult, because conceptually it was not difficult. But when it became a big hoo-ha, and then we went to look at it, we realized that actually why people are, children cry and whatever thing, right, is because it was not so typical. That there were very few questions in the past that came out in this kind of form and format. But actually for us, we didn't flag it out, because the skill or the concept required in this question actually is the same. And in fact, some of you, if you look at the solution, you find that actually all the solution that came out, right, actually were something that have been, the students actually know what to do. But it's just that it came out in a combination and form that is not familiar. So if they are drilling and practicing like that and memorizing the question type and then applying methods and solving methods without understanding, then you'll find that they are stuck. And that's not what we want. So again, it's not about being exam smart, because I find that exam smart can be a bit dangerous. Yeah. So that's really what we are saying. Okay, schoolwork is not considered screen time. We disagree. No, we are not saying that schoolwork is not screen time. We are just talking about how in Madam Muzina's slide just now, it was talking about how the restriction in terms of 2 hours is outside of schoolwork. Okay, the 2 hours that is the hours that is spent on non-schoolwork should try to limit it to within 2 hours. Certainly, schoolwork is still considered screen time, and I think, as I've said earlier, that MOE recommend that we try to keep it within 4 hours per day, particularly during the COVID period. I think that's something that we also have communicated and be very clear ourselves in terms of that use of device. But of course, during the COVID period, there are days and sometimes that actually that cannot be very strictly adhered to. But we certainly take that guideline very seriously, and we try to stick to that most of the time. Okay, so we hope that we answered that. Mindfulness practice, does the school have empirical data on student outcomes? Okay, I think the mindfulness practice, right? We don't have that outcome. Okay, in terms of, I don't think mindfulness is trying to lead towards a particular quantifiable outcome. I think the mindfulness is about wanting to make sure that our children have a mechanism and device to be able to calm themselves down during stressful situation. Just want to say this, that like when you say the PSLE math question and some school and parents reported on newspaper that their children cry and vomited, I just want to say that in my 5 years in Admiralty, right, I never see Admiralty students doing that. Okay, so through the years, all our P6s, right, they take the exams in their own stride. And when I ask them whether they are really over so stressed and they are paralyzed by it, actually they are not. What I'm sensing is that the parents are more nervous, because they said, my children are not nervous. I'm very worried because they are not taking it seriously. I mean, they parents are treating that when the children are not stressed over PSLE, the parents become more stressed. I'm seeing that happening. So I don't have a concrete data, but I think so far in terms of the stress level that our students are reporting, I think we are pretty healthy. I'm not saying that all our children are perfect and things like that. Certainly there are children that do feel that, and they will go to counselors, they will go to teachers for help. But as an overall thing, I think we are in good state, particularly based on the kind of conversation that I've had with our children. Okay, how many counselors are there in school? Okay, we have Madam Mazina is our one and only full-time school counselor. So she doesn't do teaching, she just do full-time counseling. On top of that, we also have teacher counselors. So we have a team of teachers that are all also chipping in terms of helping to do counseling. So quite a few of our teachers are actually counseling trained. In fact, even our year heads, many of them are also trained in their counselings. And on top of that, they also have their team of teacher counselors that will come in to help out in that. So certainly, if our children need help, they can raise it to their teachers, and we will be able to find teachers that will be able to help them. Yeah, ECG program, yes, we do have. I mean, our ECG program, we do enrich it with many things. So these are things whereby our children will experience, and for some of us who might have been keeping track with what our children are going through, they are actually pretty well coached. P5 and P6, ECG is referring to educational career guidance. So some of you with children at 5 and 6, you will know that we actually have a very rigorous program to kind of get them to start thinking about their secondary school choices, or even their DSA choices, and how they prepare themselves towards it. And increasingly, we are going to trickle some of these things down into the lower level. In fact, some of the existing things that we have is that at the end of primary 2, we actually get the children to think about their CCA choices. So that is actually part of the ECG already, in terms of cultivating additional talent that they have. And then when they go from 3 to 4 and then to 5, okay, we look at, do they, how ready are they in terms of exposing themselves to more leadership development as they become senior members of the CCA. And then once they reach P5, as they are doing their leadership exposure, then ask themselves, with all this exposure and learning that they have accumulated, what is their choices of secondary school in terms of the best fit and even in terms of DSA choices. So we certainly have that. So those of our parents at 5 and 6, particularly this last 2 years, I think we have more intensive program at 5 and 6. So we do have that in place, and that is way beyond what MOE actually have prescribed for the school. Yeah, so we hope that that answered the question, and do find out from the children about what they are doing, because they have their e-portfolio in the Google Classroom that tracks their secondary school choices and why they choose those schools. And I think sometimes our Mrs. Lim, our VP, also have conversation with some of our children about that. And sometimes some of these children, particularly when they get into trouble, right, actually Mrs. Lim used these secondary choices to try to refocus their attention on what is it that they want to achieve. What are their secondary school choices? And she said that a lot of them actually make very sound and reasonable choices. So I think with that, I want to thank the teachers for actually counseling that and providing that guidance. And for many of you, if their children bring this work back to discuss with you, I also want to thank the parents for that kind of advices that you are giving them, so that they are, they are thinking through and they are making some decision about their choices. Yeah, and certainly some of the things that we would want to advocate when it comes to ECG is that as parents, we should try to let our children make the choice and not to impose our wills on them to say that, no, you must go into this school and not that school. Because I think, again, in my conversation with the P6s, I've seen some children who were disappointed because they say that they were not able to go to the school that they want to because of parent objections. So certainly that was some of the feedback that was given to us, and we just want to share that with the parents. Okay, so we hope that answer many of the questions that you have raised. So I know that time is over already, so I don't want to keep you there. And I think if you have further questions, feel free to get in touch, write into us, and then we will try to see how else we can respond to your questions. Yeah, so thank you so much, parents, for joining us in today's sessions. So we hope you have a good day and a good weekend. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peck. Thank you, parents. Have a great weekend. We will end the session.
Thank you. Thank you.